Another Dooley Noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point. Okay, and welcome in to another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studios. We are in our house today, and we'll be back in studio at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill on Monday, and Coach will join us then. Today, Matt McCall is going to join us. You guys, I'm sure, remember Matt when he was a assistant coach here. It started out as kind of a trainer and moved his way up and became a head coach, of course, at Chattanooga and then at UMass. And now he's working for Sirius, knows college basketball about as well as anybody else. Every time I hear him, I always go, I got to get him on the podcast, man. I've known Matt for a long time, so we're going to have him on the show today. That'll be a lot of fun to talk to him. I had a long talk with Patrick Young this morning. I think he's going to come on next week or maybe the following week. We'll see how that goes. All right, it is time for our Process Service of Gainesville Starting Five, brought to you by the Process Service of Gainesville, Scott Hart, and the great work he does over there. I know I want to just keep looking out because the trash is coming, so I'm always constantly like, look, what? FedEx? That's FedEx? We got a lot of what do you call them? Vans, whatever you want to call them, in this town, or especially in this neighborhood. For some reason, we get them all the time. We probably have 6 or 7 FedEx trucks go through here a day, and maybe another 6 or 7 UPS. And then, so when you add in, and then you add in the Amazon, and then you add in a day that's trash day, there's a lot of big trucks going through here. Anyway, so I thought I'd bring that up. I know how much you care about me. All right, let's get to number one on our Process Service of Gainesville, Starting Five. Most of you watched the game last night. It was a no soup for you game, man. I mean, it was right there. You had it. You were in line. You had paid the money. And then at the end, they took the bread away, and you just didn't get it. Really tough to lose a game like that. But, I mean, I was proud of those guys to have played at that level. When I was talking to my wife last night after the game, and she said, we're as good as them. We can play with this team. We showed that. And Florida led most of the game. I mean, they were leading, and they had got the lead up to 10 in the second half. We've seen that before. In fact, what I thought about was that string of 3 straight years where Florida got to the Elite Eight and lost, and all 3 of them, they had 10-point leads with 10 minutes ago. That's what that game last night reminded me of. They just couldn't quite finish it. Then the following year, they did finish a lot of those games and ended up all the way to the Final Four. But this team just couldn't quite finish that one. Had some chances there at the end. But it's a tough loss, though. I mean, it was a kind of win. If you could have gotten that win, you would have said, don't even talk about the bubble and us anymore. That would have been all right, they're in. I'll tell you, they're in now. They aren't going to be knocked out. The problem was I don't know if Pittsburgh lost. I guess Pittsburgh lost, or anyway, they fell out of the quad 1 segment. So now Florida's back to 2. They almost had 4. And in fact, I was thinking if Mississippi State wins, they might become their 5th quad 1. But Mississippi State won, but they didn't quite get up that high, and they still could. Pittsburgh lost and Florida lost, of course. There was an opportunity to walk out of that with 5 quad 1 wins. Now they're back down to 2. So, but look, if you watch that game and you're a member of that committee, you went, oh, this team's getting in. They're getting in. We want to see this in the tournament because they can score. And they score in bunches, and they also don't play great defense, and yet they still will block a ton of shots. I think they blocked 7 or 8 last night. They'll block a ton of shots, but they'll still give up 98 points. That's the way they are. They're every TV guy's dream. I don't know, they should want them on there all the time. So anyway, they do fall short in that game, and their net remained right where it was. And that's what I said before the game. Florida cannot get hurt by this game. It can get incredibly rewarded. Like you go up a couple of seed lines, you get a win at Alabama. to go along with the win at Kentucky, to go along with the win at home against Auburn, and you're set. Now you're all you're doing is playing for seeds at that point. And look, Florida went to the game with house money. There is no doubt. They were playing with house money. They walked in the game. They weren't expected to win, but if they won it, that would be great. If they lost it, wasn't going to hurt them, and it didn't. In fact, Alabama and Florida, neither one of their nets changed one spot, and probably shouldn't. You win an overtime game at home, you're not going to go up. In fact, we've seen Florida go down, but they were playing a tougher team, or an easier team. Anyway, let's get to number 2 on our process service of games. We're starting 5, and that is what happened in the SEC last night. It was wild and crazy again, not only with that game, which was a huge game when you think about it. If Florida wins that game, it is wide open for who's winning the SEC. Now Alabama takes back control of it at 11-2. And they're in good shape. But Kentucky losing to LSU, did that make me happy? Did that make me was I able to put my head down on my pillow and be a little happier last night? Yes, I was. I did watch the end of that game. In fact, the only reason I watched it, I'd given up on it on my second TV. And I said, well, I got to watch it. But then I was like, nah. So I think I was watching a movie or something. I finally was flipping around. All of a sudden it said, that I think it was on the other highlights show, and they were saying how LSU just took the lead on Kentucky. I'm like, oh, get it back there, and saw the end of it. And then, of course, I saw an unbelievable inning. Dillingham making the 2 from the corner. I thought it was a 3 at first, but it was a 2. Guy is really talented guy. He's going to be a good NBA player. And then them coming down and taking a terrible shot, somehow getting the ball in front of the basket. Tayron Ward, boom, tips it in at the buzzer. Great moment. And they said, well, LSU has a plan to control it. And it looked like it was just the golf course ropes. But I think maybe they were trying to confine them into one area. And if that is true, that could be something that does work. And now the question will be, does the SEC say, well, look, your guys stormed the court. They still stormed the court. They were on the court. They still get fined. Or have they already approved that and said, what if we did this, made sure the players can get out, but we'll take this one half of the court for our students and we'll rope it off. And that makes some sense. Now, it's not going to last. Eventually somebody's going to go under the rope or over the rope or cut the rope or whatever. Anyway. But it was just a wild night, and the Mississippi State beating Ole Miss. Ole Miss, they aren't going to make it at all. I thought Ole Miss at the beginning of the year was a really good team, but maybe not so much. And of course, I when Florida lost that game the other night, I was thinking to myself, well, hopefully they won't be ranked now. I don't want this Florida team to be ranked. They don't need to know they're ranked. However, I will say this. That team played better as a ranked team than they played as an unranked team, didn't they, last night? I thought they played one of their best games. So you can say that for sure. I don't disagree with it. So, but I don't want them to be ranked. And I want them to be thinking they're better than they are. But they're doing good. And look, last night, there are no such things as moral victories at the University of Florida. But last night, they were playing with house money. There's a difference between having moral victories and playing with house money. When you're playing with house money, you've already won. If you win again, it's going to be great. And that's where they are. Now, they go into this game. They're not playing with house money against Vanderbilt on Saturday because you can't lose that game. And that's the way it works. But couple of home games coming up for the Gators, so that's good. All right, number 3 on our process service of Gainesville. Starting 5, the College Football Committee is, we think we may go to 14 teams now we're talking about. And I'm like, good. Why don't you go to 114? I'll be fine with that. Just have college football playoff games for all eternity. In fact, I think they should start in January and end in December. And we can put multiple teams on the field, so that players not to worry about getting hurt. As long as there's college football on. Sunday was one of the most depressing days I've ever had. Well, not ever, but it was a depressing day because there was no football. The basketball was not much. The golf was nothing special. We had rain issues there. I don't know, it just wasn't, and there was no football. That was the main thing. And I know there are people that are going to tell me, "Oh, whoa, we got this new league, the UFL. It's a combination of the two worst leagues of all time." Okay, good. You don't have any players playing it that I've ever heard of. I don't want to watch a league of players who have graduated from college, and I didn't hear of them playing in college, so I don't want to hear about them playing in the pros. And it's not even the pros; it's minor leagues. So, and you know me, I'm a USFL guy. I love the USFL, but the USFL had NFL players playing in it. They had the Herschels. They had the Kelvin Bryants. Gary Clark played for the Jacksonville Bulls, played for the Redskins for a long time. Jim Kelly, Steve Young, Brian Sipe, quarterback down there for a while. Vaughn Johnson was a great player. They had the NFL players, is my point. So don't tell me. Anyway, let's get to number 4, which is what they're proposing, that for the EA Sports game, this is what they've announced. If you want to opt in and say, yes, you can use my name, image, and likeness, which is what Urban talked about Monday, or last Thursday, that's what it needs to get back to: name, image, and likeness. That's what it was supposed to be. Not, hey, we're just going to give you $1 million and come play. That's not what it's supposed to be. And his point was a good one. But the EA Sports game is going to give each of the players $600 and a copy of the game. Oh my! They get their very own copy of a $60 game. These guys are making, $800,000, and you're going to give them a $60 game and make it seem like that's a big deal. I don't think this thing has been collectively bargained yet. I assume it hasn't. But that doesn't sound like a great deal to me. So we'll see where that goes. My daughter's already on me. She wants me to get a computer, and because we had one, but it doesn't work or something's gone now. And I did play that, but I told her, I said, when I was playing that EA Sports game, that's all I would do. I would do it all day and into the night. And it's addictive, and I don't need to get back. I don't need to add to that, to my addictions anymore. So I'm gonna pass on that. Number 5 on our process service of Gainesville starting 5. I did want to mention the baseball finally came home and played some, or finally got some real games in. They'd only had one in because of the rain problems of last week. And of course they swept UNF, did a good job with them. UNF's not bad either. They did a good job. Now 2-1, Columbia this week. Kind of a soft schedule early. I think it's because you got so many freshman pitchers, but they have done a really good job so far. And you can read more about that at Gators Wire, where I'm writing a weekly baseball. I'm calling it the 4-bagger. I'm giving you 4 things that Florida baseball found out over the last week and where they are now. So I'm gonna do that all season long. So there you have it. There you have it. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we will talk to our good friend Matt McCall, talk to him about all things college basketball, and his time at the University of Florida as well. We'll be back with more here on another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Dooley Dome, Meldon Law, Gator Studios.
Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life. And the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans.
I was driving behind a lady, and very suddenly she moved out of the way. There was a log laying in the road, and when I hit my brakes, I went on top of the log. I had 2 herniated discs. I just haven't been the same since. Jeffrey Meldon fought for me all the way. Him and his team really went there for me. Throughout the whole lawsuit, he made sure that my bills was paid. It was never no whenever I called him and asked him for something.
Call Meldon Law right now. Process Service of Gainesville offers a rapid turnaround on affidavits of service for Gator lawyers locally and nationwide. Our friend Scott Hart offers immediate responses on status requests and is a member of NAPS and FAPS. And he has been a part of the community for almost 2 decades. Need service? Call Process Service of Gainesville at 407-697-9592 or email shartgators, that's G8TR, at yahoo.com. And make sure you ask about the paralegal legal secretary bonus program.
Okay, and welcome back to another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studios. It's a great pleasure to bring on our special guest today, Matt McCall. Of course, you knew him as a Florida basketball assistant coach. You knew him at Massachusetts. You knew him at Chattanooga. And you hear him all the time on Sirius, man. He is so good. I heard him the other day. I go, Matt, I got to get Matt on. That's right. I got to get him on the show. How are you, young man?
Duels, I'm doing great, man. Appreciate you having me on. It's been a while. It's been a while since we've connected, so I'm looking forward to today. We're going to have some fun.
Yeah, well, let's start with what you're seeing from college basketball. I mean, it's obviously been a lot of fun when we had more unranked teams beat top 10 teams in the history of the AP poll to start out the season in January. It's just been crazy all season.
Yeah, and it's not going to stop either, and I think the 4 teams that we see end up in Phoenix, I mean, it could be anybody at this point in time. I think Purdue and UConn all year have been the 2 consistent teams, and you still got to probably pick them to at least get there. But anything could happen, and we saw Ohio State beat Purdue the other day, a few days after they decided to let Chris Holtmann go. And then you see UConn lose to Creighton just a couple days later. Maybe that's the formula to beat UConn. Just bomb as many threes as you possibly can and hope 14 or 15 of them go in. But they've been the 2 most consistent teams all year. They both have terrific, outstanding coaches. So I wouldn't be shocked if either one of them are cutting the nets down in Phoenix. But, man, the parity in college basketball this year is probably like no other year we've ever seen. And we saw a little bit of it last year when you see Florida Atlantic and San Diego State get to a Final Four. I mean, that's just to have 2 quote-unquote mid-major programs in the Final Four. We haven't seen that in a long, long time. And I wouldn't be shocked if we see it again this year.
How much of that parity do you think is based on the portal and the NIL and all that stuff that's going on, and that we talk a lot about in football? We don't talk about as much in basketball, but I literally I would go, wait, he's where? Who's where?
Yeah.
We got a lot of publicity for the football transfers, but the basketball ones don't get as much. And certainly that's how you build a team now with this portal.
Yeah, and it's the times that we live in, Duels. And I think the coaches that have adopted it and adapted to it are the guys that you're seeing have a lot of success. I mean, if you have coaches that are completely set in their ways or are complaining about NIL and transfer portal, it's like you're spending more time complaining about it instead of just, hey, this is what it is. And it's not going anywhere. Yeah. And I think that the parity in college basketball, there's certain teams that are older, they're more experienced. I mean, you have guys that are in their 5th, 6th year of college. Now, when the COVID year goes away and nobody can get that year back anymore, maybe it levels off a little bit. But for the most part, it's not going to. And you just have to be willing to understand that this is what it is. It's not going anywhere. And you've got to accept it and move forward and coach your team. And there's a lot of guys that have complained about it and, rightfully so, understand that. But you also have to adapt to the times, and this is what it is. And it's not going anywhere. But we've also seen some unbelievable games and parity in college basketball and buzzer beaters and exciting games. I mean, the Florida game last night was outstanding, and Florida had
great game.
I thought Alabama almost shot their way out of it in overtime, right? They just kept bombing up shots with a 5-point lead with a minute to go. I don't know why Nate Oates wasn't saying pull it out, let's run some clock. But we see a lot of those games, and it makes it exciting.
But yeah, let's talk about Florida a little bit and your time here. How did you get down here in the first place? I mean, to the University of
It's a
Florida.
long story, Duels. I have to give Jeremy Foley a lot of credit because if I don't give Foley credit, he always gives me a hard time. But he was the driving factor behind my initial start with the program back in 2003 or 2002 is when I started. Udonis Haslam's senior year. My father was a middle linebacker during the 60s. And I grew up with the Spurrier family, the
That was
Trammell
Wayne.
family. I got to mention Alan Trammell. We just lost
Yeah.
my second father the other day, Alan Trammell. So he was a second dad to me. May he rest in peace. We're gonna miss him. One of the best smiles, one of the biggest Gator fans you'll ever see.
Yeah.
Super close with all three of his kids, Alan, Mike, Trammell, and Shannon. We grew up together. We all went on vacation together. It was us, the Shannons, the Durances, the Spurriers. That was our crew, and the Peaks. So yeah, that was our crew. So we're gonna miss Mr. T. So I'd be remiss on your show not to acknowledge him. We lost another Gator great in Bill Carr too, who was a part of that Silver 60s group. So those guys with my father are also close, and that's how it kind of started for me. And Jeremy Foley became a part of our Silver 60s crew. And when I decided to go to the University of Florida, I knew I tried to be a normal student for a year and just do the fraternity thing, and none of that was for me. And I wanted to be a part of basketball. I missed being a part of the game, and I sat outside Jeremy Foley's office, I think, for 2 hours one day until he finally came back from a bunch of meetings. And Patty Foster was sitting there looking at me like I was nuts. And I said, I just need 1 minute. I just need 1 minute. And I said to Mr. Foley, I wanted to be a part of the team. He contacted Donnie Jones. My first meeting was with Donnie Jones, and it just grew from there. I was a student manager. I then became a graduate assistant coach in 2005. So I was there 05, 06. I became the director of basketball operations in 07. And then I had a heart-to-heart with Coach Donovan that I really wanted to coach. And he said, look, I need you to go get experience. And if you go get that experience as a coach, then I'm going to hire you back. And that's exactly what he did. And he hounded Mike Jarvis. Mike Jarvis got hired at Florida Atlantic. He hounded him. Him and Larry Shyatt, I think, called Mike Jarvis every day for a week until he picked up the phone. And I went down to Florida Atlantic, and I spent 3 years down there. We won the league, and Coach Donovan was a man of his word. He hired me back. He lost Larry Shyatt, Rob Lanier, and Richard Pitino in the same year. And then he hired me, John Pelfrey, and Norm Roberts, and I was back as an assistant coach. So Jeremy Foley, if he's listening, make sure, Foley, and I'm going to make sure I'm going to call him to listen to this show. But, my two biggest mentors, in all of athletics have been Jeremy and Billy. And I owe everything to them. And, it's a lot of it started with the Silver 60s crew. And we're losing a couple of those guys right now, which is sad.
Yeah.
Because they're like second fathers to me. But you know what? We have great memories. So
Yeah, and I mean there were great memories of those teams too. They were fun to watch, and we had a lot of fun covering them. And then obviously you went off to Chattanooga on the Chattanooga Choo Choo. How'd you like it up there?
Man, it was a great place and created some unbelievable memories. Had an opportunity as a young head coach to coach in the NCAA tournament. I'll never forget. We were a 12 seed. We played Indiana, which was a 5, and Indiana as a 5 seed was the best 5 seed in the history of the tournament duels. I'm not saying that because I'm bitter. I'm saying that because it's true. They won the Big Ten. They won the Big Ten that year, and we're a 5 seed. But the night before the game, I'm sitting in my hotel room. I got Raph, Jim Nance, Tracy Wolfson. I got Grant Hill. I got the whole crew. Talking to me, and it was just a surreal experience to accomplish that as a young head coach. And the UMass opportunity came open, and Coach Donovan was the driving force behind me taking that. And you know what? I wouldn't trade either experience, and I learned a lot at UMass. And for a young guy taking over a program that culturally was not in a good place was a challenge, and I had to learn and grow from that. And you know what? I'm attacking this media stuff and trying to figure out exactly what's going to be next. I haven't closed the book on coaching at all. Making sure my family is good with whatever next move we have. Once you start having kids, Duels, that throws a whole another wrench in this coaching chain. But doing great and excited to see whenever that opportunity is. Whether it's an assistant coach because I feel like I can help somebody going through being a head coach for 7 years. Or another head job. So we'll see what's down the pipe, but trying to attack this stuff and having a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, what do you think so far about what Todd Golden's been able to do here? I mean, this year they've been a lot better, and they've gotten a lot better as the season's gone on. And that game last night was great. But I mean, this guy he's one of the few guys that looks younger than you that's a coach. But I think he's doing a pretty good job.
He's doing a great job, Duels. And I don't know who looks younger, him or Dusty May. And we saw Dusty May, the former Florida assistant, get all the way to the Final Four last year, and he's doing a terrific job as well. But you know what? This is just my opinion. This is not coming from anyone in the program, and still have a lot of ties there with Duke Warner and Tracy Paff, Tom Williams. Guys that have been associated with that program and have been huge pieces of that program. I don't think those three individuals get enough credit for the success that the University of Florida has had in men's basketball. I look at this team and I look at them last year, and there were some struggles, and you can see the change in the roster, just the competitiveness, the willingness and the want to win. This group has it. I mean, I remember being there over the summer when we did the whole TBT Gatorverse thing and seeing those guys out on the floor, and there's that size, they've got physicality, and they got guys that really want to work, and was super impressed. Even last night, they had chances to win that game. I didn't think it was the best officiated game. I know Todd Golden's not going to make excuses for that, but I think he's doing a great job, and I think this is a really competitive team that we're going to see in the NCAA tournament. And, two important games coming up, Duels. With Vanderbilt and Missouri, you got to just take care of business. Whether you win by 1, whether you win by 15, whether you win by 20, and those are the two teams that are in the bottom of the standings. But when you get to this time of year, you just have to take care of business. I think Walter Clayton, one of the best transfers in the country this season, that doesn't get enough credit. We don't talk about him enough in terms of national media. He's having an outstanding year, shooting 35% from the three-point line. He's made huge shots, almost made another one last night. I thought it was in when it left his hands. And I think Tyrese Samuel, he was a guy that I ran into a bunch over the summer when I was up there. And he's got this big smile on his face. He's got this personality, has this character piece that when Florida's been really good, they've always had really good front court players. I don't care who the coach was, and we can go down the list if we needed to, but there's been those charismatic guys, but they had that character too, and he has that. And so I think this is a really good team. I think Coach Golden addressed some of the issues that we saw from last year's team just from a competitiveness standpoint and a willingness and a want to win, and that's a credit to him and his coaching staff, and they're doing a great job.
What do you think about the SEC now as far as how many they get in? Alabama's in, obviously Auburn will be in. Kentucky lost again last night, which it's unbelievable. I don't know what their deal is.
Yeah, it's head scratching. And you talk about a guy that's bounced around. It's Trey Mitchell he started with me at UMass, and you talk about a guy that's a journeyman in college basketball and was at Texas and West Virginia, and now is at Kentucky, a terrific talent who's been out with some injuries. The issue for them has been on the defensive end of the floor, and you thought the previous 2 games before you go into last night's game that they figured it out. They've had some injuries. They've had different guys out. Trey's been out for the last couple of games. Who are they playing at the 5 spot? Is it Enyoso? Is it Brett Child? It's like this revolving door of 5 men where I think they've lacked that consistency. I've said this all year, Duels, about Kentucky. I could see Kentucky in Phoenix because I think they have the talent to do it, or I could see them getting knocked out in the first round. That's just with a young team. Go back to the Florida game in Rupp Arena. Okay, the shot that Walter Clayton hit, Reed Sheppard turned his head completely on a middle pick and roll, tries to run down, and just for a split second, Clayton lifts out of the corner. They throw it to Clayton, and now Reed Sheppard says, "Uh-oh, that's my guy." And I run back, Clayton ball fakes, Sheppard leaves his feet, sidesteps, and he drills a 3. That's undisciplined. That's a young basketball team. Mm-hmm. So as hot as this team can get, where they're making threes, the ball's hopping up the floor, they're moving around the perimeter, they just lack that discipline because they're playing young guys. Now, I think Cal's doing it the way that he should do it. Take freshmen. Take the most talented players in the country. Mix in 1 or 2 transfers. Mix in a Trey Mitchell.
Yeah.
and coach the heck out of them. Because that's when he's had the most success. When he got away from that the last few years and he started to just take transfers and try to mold a team, it hasn't worked out for him. And like I said, I think this team could end up in Phoenix, or I think they could lose in the first round. I wouldn't be shocked either way.
Another team like that is Tennessee. I mean, I love that Tennessee team, and I love Dalton Connect, but there's times when I watch them play, and I'm like, these teams could go out in the first round as well. I think there's a lot of teams like that in this league.
I think Alabama's another one.
Yeah.
You saw it last night. I mean, the game, they were up 5 in overtime, and they just continued to hoist threes. Now, I get it. That's how we play. That's your style. It works. You win a lot of basketball games doing it. But I think when you get to the tournament duels, you have to be able to adjust. You've got to be able to change defenses and not do the same thing. You're going to go to win a game, and it may not be working. And it's survive in advance. Go back to the 2014 Final Four team at Florida. Like, it wasn't just man-to-man. It wasn't just pressing with will you get at the front of the press. There was different defenses out there that you had to be willing to change. We'd throw out a 1-3-1 to keep teams off balance. Then we'd play man-to-man. We brought Dorian Finney-Smith off the bench. You'd move him to the 4 spot, the 5 spot, playing different ways. And I think being able to make those adjustments is the biggest key to winning in March. If you're going to say, hey, look, this is who we are. We're not doing things any other way. We're only going to do things this way because this is what has got us to this point, and the game's going a certain way, and you can't adjust, then you're going to get beat.
Yep, absolutely. Matt McCall coming to you on the Big Mills Cheesesteaks Zoom line, and we're going to play yes, no way, or maybe with him. 3 questions. You answer it yes, no way, or maybe, brought to you by Big Mills Cheesesteaks, street dining done the right way. If you go in there and say you listened to or watched another duly noted podcast, free French fries with your order. I talked to him yesterday. By the way, they are sponsoring the Bob Dooley Invitational again this year, so we appreciate them as well. All right, yes, no way, or maybe. Number 1, for Matt McCall, you could still win a shooting contest with Billy Donovan.
Yes. Listen, one of the things with me and Coach Donovan was it was always competitive. If we go into the weight room and he'd jump on the treadmill and run 100 sprints, he'd say, "You can't do this," and I'd say, "Yes, I can." Now he's picked up golf, and when we used to play when I worked for him, he was not very good. Now through the NBA bubble, he got better. Do I still have to give him strokes? Yes, but there's no chance I'm ever saying that he's beating me at anything.
That's good. All right, number 2 on yes, no way, or maybe. You can take one team for the NCAA tournament, then you're taking Purdue.
Yes, and the only reason is I can't take UConn because I don't want them to go back to back. Is that being a little petty?
Well, no, that's exactly what I think. I started thinking about it. I go, oh, UConn, I got to start rooting against them.
Yeah. And you know what? Coach Hurley, Kamani Young, his lead assistant's a great friend of mine. They're doing an unbelievable job. So it's hard for me to say that. I think Purdue's focused. I think they're on a mission. I think everything they went through last year, they're going to come back. And I think they're going to completely steamroll through the first 2 rounds, matchups, everything once you get to the Sweet 16. But I'm going to take Purdue.
All right, and finally on yes, no, where, maybe with Matt McCall, the thing you miss most about coaching is practice.
Practice and preparation. Love film. Love watching film, breaking down film. How are we going to attack this team? What are we going to run against them to expose their weakness? How should we guard them? How should we guard ball screens? And then taking that down to the practice floor, 1,000%. As a head coach, game day can be stressful. No question about it. But the practice and the preparation, that's what I miss the most.
Yeah, well, we miss you in Gainesville. I know you're down in Jupiter, but maybe we'll see you up here. And I keep doing a good job with this media stuff. I love listening to you, and it's great to hear a familiar voice on the air. And the Gator grads have pretty much dominated the media. With our Collinsworths and our Palmers and our Patrick Youngs and
Aaron Andrews. We got them all. Got them all. Okay, so yeah, I'm just trying to fit in, Duels. All right, I'm trying to fit in. Let me know if you need me. If anybody needs an extra partner in the Dooley Classic this year, I'm in. I got my handicap down to about a 6. So if you need a stick, I'm coming up there.
I know some teams that are going to want you to play. Believe me, and they need all the help they can get. Matt, thanks so much. We'll be back with more of another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studios.
I was driving behind a lady, and very suddenly she moved out of the way. There was a log laying in the road, and when I hit my brakes, I went on top of the log. I had 280 discs. I just haven't been the same since. Jeffrey Meldon fought for me all the way. Him and his team really went there for me. Throughout the whole lawsuit, he made sure that my bills was paid. It was never no whenever I called him and asked him for something.
Call Meldon Law right now.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Bite Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Another duly noted podcast comes to you from the Coaches Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Celebration Point. You can watch and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube for every podcast that we do on Mondays and Fridays at 2 o'clock. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, any of the other 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below or call me if you want to do some advertising at 352-317-3444. Okay, welcome back to another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studios. Appreciate all of our great sponsors. It is time for our Hesser and Kipke three things. And you guys all know Hesser and Kipke. It's a Gainesville law firm specializing in the areas of family law and workers' compensation. If you're a loyal listener of this show, you know who we are by now. If not, Google the firm. Check out the reviews and hear what our clients have to say. Ken and Jennifer can be reached 24/7 via call or text at 352-339-9920. That is Hesser and Kipke. Let's get to the three things. And we will start off with the fact that softball got started this week or last week and is going. I wanted to make sure I mentioned them and didn't just kind of ignore them, because when baseball starts, we tend to kind of push softball aside. But this is a good softball team. They're 10-2. I know they've lost some games that probably shouldn't have lost, but 2 losses is not the end of the world. Lost to Michigan and lost to Oklahoma State, 2 ranked teams. But they've got a really good team. I think it's important that you know that and get out there and support them. I'll give you a little bit later when they play on our Swamp Restaurant Games of the Week. Let us move to number 2, which is another one I want to make sure we look out for, which is swimming. Swimming right now gets no credit. These guys work hard. We know that. They're up at the SECs, and they're leading the SECs in the men's and second place in the women's so far. And next week we'll be able to tell you exactly how they did, but make sure you pay attention to swimming. Florida has got really good swimming teams. They win it almost every year. And so the men are women, the women are second. That's going to go on all week though. So we'll find out about that going forward. So okay. That is our that's number 2, and number 3 on our Hesser and Kipke three things. I want to mention another women's sport, which is gymnastics, which we've kind of put on the back burner because of the people that are out. But they've got a huge match Friday night, 6:45 on ESPN2. That's where the 2 came from, against LSU. LSU is ranked second in the country. Florida is in the top 10. I think they're 10th right now. They're struggling a little bit with all the people they have out, but that'll be a fun gymnastics meet to go to. Some of the athletes that are going to be on the floor for that are going to be incredible. That's against number 2 LSU at 6:45 Friday night, tomorrow night, Florida gymnastics. So Hesser and Kipke three things tonight was all about all the other sports you need to pay attention to. We don't want it just to be football, basketball all the time. We like to make sure we give everybody their due. And so thanks to Hesser and Kipke for that. let us move on to our Leonardo's and Millhopper quick picks. And I said we would pull a winner today, and we are going to pull a winner today. Let me get my. It's almost like a box of what do you call it when you have those boxes and you on the Super Bowl and you can pick up a number. All right, so we'll let Zach make a pick. Zach, the numbers are between 34 and 86. Those are all the qualifiers that we had. A lot of people got in, and so Zach can pick one number between those numbers, and we'll punch the person who is the winner. We won't actually punch it.
Between 34 and 86. Let's go with big
86.
55.
Ooh. Okay. 85 is the winner is Darcy Melendez. Darcy Melendez is our winner. And congratulations to her. Darcy, just get in touch with me and I will make sure you get a $25 gift certificate at Leonardo's, as well as a signed copy of my book. I think that's what I'll give away. I'm running low on books, so I may have to stop doing that. I may have to give away hats or something else. But anyway, the main thing is you get $25 at Leonardo's, and we'll be happy to mail that out to you. And congratulations, Darcy. We do have several women that get in the contest, and so that's kind of exciting. Well, it's not exciting. It's just I like that women are involved in it. All right. Let's get to our Adams Ribco to Go Gator of the Week. And this was, this is a good time of year. As we talked about before, we have so much going on that I get to, I get a lot of choices. And the player I chose in this case was Michael Robertson. Michael Robertson last year kind of got benched, just wasn't hitting. And if you remember, he pinch ran in the game that got Florida to the College World Series final. Pinch ran, scored. I think he scored the winning run and then made that great catch against the wall, and that got Florida to the College World Series final. But last night, they're counting on him to be a starter again, and he missed a lot of games last year, but 4 hits. And the great thing about it was they were all hit to the opposite direction. I wanted to just run down there and squeeze them. I've been complaining so much about guys not hitting away from the shifts. You saw last night, I think it was last night, Colby Shelton bunted away from the shift. And I'm like, thank you. Need to do that more often. And you know what'll happen? They'll quit shifting on you. And guess what that means? He's play baseball. But Michael Robertson had 4 hits last night. So he's off to a good start. And hopefully he is going to be that Michael Robertson because he's a really good baseball player, can really run and field his position. And that is our Adams Ribco to Go Gator of the Week. Let's get to our This, That, and the Other. And as you know, This, That, and the Other is brought to you by our good friends at Shakow Insurance, by our great friends at Ironwood Golf Course, home of the Bob Dooley Invitational, and by our great friends at Ballyhoo Grill, where we had dinner last night. We love Ballyhoo Grill. So This, That, and the Other. This is, hey, we're going to begrudgingly allow you to play the playoffs with 4 teams. We don't want to do it. We want to keep it at 2. In fact, we don't want to even consider it playoffs. But now we're going to consider it playoffs. So 4 teams, and that's it. That's where we're going to stop, right there. Yeah, we really believe that for a minute. That is that, of course, they expanded to 12 teams. Oh, it'll be great. And we all are like, oh, how are we going to figure this out? But it's good. And we like it. We love it. We want as many games as possible. And the other is they get in the meeting room and they go, well, if we have 12 teams, some teams are going to be left out. Well, duh. Unless you play a 130 team playoff, somebody's going to be left out. Okay? It's just the way math works. But now they want to go to 14 to make sure everybody's included. Everybody gets a trophy. Should they give out, like, instead of the crystal ball, they should give out like little participation ribbons, maybe? All right, whatever you guys do just tell me when the games are and I'll watch them because I can't resist. That is our this, that, and the other brought to you by Dar Shakow, by Ironwood Golf Course, and by our good friends at Valley here. By the way, I've gone to Ironwood a couple of times. I haven't really been playing any golf. I've been just kind of scouting things out, making sure everything's okay. Place is packed all the time. And again, when you're a place with limited golf courses, now I guess the country club is going to open up because that's been bought. So hopefully that is, and we get to have that. That would give us 4 golf courses. Whoa. Actually, Ironwood, Hawkstone, UF, Turkey Creek. We have 4. That would make 5. Ooh. How many does Ocala have? 50. All right. I'm bitter about our lack of golf courses. All right, let's get to our Swamp Restaurant games of the weekend. Boy, they've got all kinds of great specials out there. Get out to the Swamp. They're having a blast. The new Swamp Restaurant, as you know, is over there on 2nd, off of 13th. And it's terrific. My daughter loves it. I can tell you that much. I'm going to give you a lot of games here, so just be ready for it. And go to the Swamp and watch them. Saturday, basketball. There's a lot of great basketball on Saturday, and that includes Florida's game is on at 1:00 against Vanderbilt. That is on the SEC network at 1. You also have on CBS Sports, pretty good game between Alabama. Who's Alabama playing? No, it's A&M. My glasses. I need to put my glasses on to see it. But Houston Baylor is at noon on CBS. That's a good game to watch. Alabama's playing Kentucky on CBS at 4. Now that I want to watch. Alabama won and Kentucky lost, and it should have been the other way around. And yet, I want Alabama to win this game because I'm enjoying this Kentucky losing streak. So you have that as well, and then A&M at Tennessee ought to be a good game. That's it. Late at night at 9 at 8 on ESPN as well. So we've got a lot of good basketball to watch this weekend. And you may be going out to the baseball stadium, which a lot of people will be out there. Baseball will be playing at 6:30, 6, and 11. Weird times for this game. 6:30, 6, and 11. Softball will be playing Friday at 3 and 5:30. And by the way, all those baseball games are on the Plus. If you have ESPN Plus, you can watch them at home. Softball, 3:00 and 5:30 on Friday. Saturday, they're at 12:30 and 3. And then Sunday, they're at, looks like 11:30 to me. Yeah, it is 11:30. Yeah, these are important. Glasses. And then gymnastics, I mentioned earlier, number 2 LSU, 6:45 Friday night. They will be playing gymnastics. They will be tumbling. All right, let us wrap it up with our Pat Dooley story time, as we always do. Thanks a lot to Mike Jordan, our great sponsor, who's been a part of this from Eastlake Pediatrics for a year and a half. We're wrapping it up with him, but it is still available if somebody else wants to sponsor Pat Dooley story time, because I still have some stories. This one is I'm going to talk about 45 years ago today. Do you know what happened? Yes, the miracle on ice. Do you believe in miracles? Yes. And I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but back in those days, they didn't show it live. It was tape delayed. The greatest hockey match in the history of the game that everybody can tell you where they were that was alive then. Biggest thing, wasn't live. And so I'm sitting there, I'm working at the Jacksonville Journal. It's a PM paper. And I'm writing something. And at the time, we had this alert that would just flash, like the way it does with the crawl on ESPN. This alert would flash across the top of a screen when something big happened. So, boom, it says, U.S. defeats Russia 4-3, will play for gold. I'm like, oh, my God. Somebody was in their eyes. Can you believe it? We won. They were, we won. USA. So I called my dad, which is what I always did when something big happened. I always called my dad. Man, I miss that guy. Anyway, I called him to tell him about it, and he was excited about it too. So, meanwhile, my wife did not want to know about it because she wanted to watch it. So my wife at the time is at her mom's house, and they're getting ready to watch it. It's just starting, and the phone rings, and I pick it up. I go, "Hey." She goes, "Hey, if it's about the hockey, I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear about it. I'm getting ready to watch it. I don't want to know what happened." I go, "Oh, I wasn't calling about that. I don't know what's going on. I didn't even know this. Is hockey on now?" I tried to play dumb. Hung up. Phone rings again. It's my dad. "How about that hockey team?" What? Yeah, they won. They beat the Russians. Kind of ruined her day, but I was happy. I remember going out that night chanting USA, USA. We were just being drunk, stupid fools, but we were having fun. And a lot of people, what they don't remember is they did not win the gold that night. They had to go win the gold against Finland. And boy, if they had lost that, we never would have remembered. Nobody would ever talk about those guys ever again. All right, that's going to do it for Pat Dooley's Storytime, and that's going to do it for another Dooley Noted podcast. Thanks to Zach for doing a great job, as he always does. Tremendous job producing the show. Thanks to Matt McCall for being our guest. Coach Spur will be back Monday. Until then, I am Pat Dooley for another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studios, saying I am deep, I am way back, and I am out of here.